Thursday, April 14th, 2022. Earlier I did a smaller piece because it was as it came, and then I go back and I rewatch over. First I try to watch it in sequence, whatever jumps out at me, whatever, and then I go back to see if I missed anything. Because sometimes things aren't like red flares yet until I see a pattern. But, excuse me, on my way back, first of all, today's the day where I called it old school sass, where they have a basketball court. There's a bunch of I call them jockeys riding. They're referring to it as donkeys. I've heard jackass. Again, I don't know the appropriate sassafras, and I don't get nifty upset. So between 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, and then the jump that takes place at 9, 10, 11, because, who wants to piss everybody off? At tasks and tusks, but whatever. So I'm watching, and today I did something at TRD, because at some point there's research and development involved. So I go back, so I watched this little clip from Rogers County Sheriff's. Thank you so much for putting up on Storyful, which then got to Eyewitness News, and that's the trail, that then I was able to receive the message, which I then recaptured in order to overlay parlay my appreciation of you. So that happened. Then I'm finishing up the news. I'm watching the full cast in its beautiful sequenced order that the producers wanted me to see it in, without any altercations. And it then goes into the donkey story a second time. And I'm like, well, now this is interesting. I could stretch my imagination as to why one might repeat an unusual event at sending messages to something that maybe didn't get it the first time, or it could have been read the wrong way. And someone's got a big heart, but someone else has breathing issues. So, So I go back and I'm like, okay, so now what preceded? I know what, Wu-Tang Clan got admitted or entered for New York City and Big Apple Circus, because they said that was the foundation of the rap. I'm like, right, for the sweetest things, the candy wrappers and the candy stripers. So that's who they chose for national admitting into as a baseline for how the other rappers did at between 4th, 5th, and 6th evaluations, and then your 9th, 10th, and 11th dimensional review, let's call it. So that was interesting. That really caught my attention, because then they focused the donkeys again. And I'm like, now, what was before the donkeys the first time? Because you just lost me in the sass of the moment. And I really wasn't paying attention to, maybe a larger mess. Maybe, I caught it perhaps at either 4th, 5th, or 6th. That's maybe what they were throwing it out there. Who catches on, who's pitching, who's catching, kind of a thing. Again, I got a wiffle ball with holes in it. I try to put my fingers in it so the holes don't bother anybody else and hold it to my heart. But again, I don't know why this has to go on this way, but here we are. So I went back and I'm looking at it, and do you know, once Lewis took me to the Javits Center, once, for something called the Auto Show, which had all of these really exotic automobiles, which I'm not a big car enthusiast or fanatic. I'm not. However, other people are. So I, again, not condoning it, not poo-pooing it, but I went there just to see, because like he was trying to upsell me on the auto, like cars, come to dad, let's go to the Javits Center away from mom. And I'm like, right, okay, leading a lamb to slaughter, have no other male figure in my life except for you, so if you're steering this boat, let's go. So I went to the Javits Center, and as a girl, I was just bored. So bored. But when dad turned on the sales pitch of like, I don't drive, dad, like, but I, again, vocabulary being what it is, might pick up new words. And it is somebody's baby, so it's arts and crafts, like, in motion for the people I don't want to upset at, I don't know, usually they're somewhere in the category of, like, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Like, they could get me in big trouble if I'm not at least nice and cordial about it or say nice things all the time, even if I don't mean it. So I'm like, So that was years ago, and I know climate for Guerrera and Gorilla, and I think Gutierrez somewhere. I heard the name. Just saying there might be. He wants to keep, I think, I heard respectfully, temperatures below 1 or 2 degrees. So I'm confused, even though they're trying to go electric, they still have to perform some function in order to get to electric production for consumption. And they're alerting me on the news, and I can't verify with smart people anywhere, that they burn some fossil fuel in order to generate the electric, even though they're investing in solar panels and blah, 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 blah. It's a rabbit hole. So I'm like, okay, so they're still investing, research and development is still investing in this car thing, which my real beef with it is criminals' ability to move anywhere and into your neighborhood. And it's really hard for management, like, in this area, Mayor Adams, to keep, like, tight and neat and tidy when everybody's traveling, and not by, like, subway or whatever, but by, like, I don't know. And then it causes more problems with whatever. So, it causes inefficiency at some point. Like, there's, like, a trade-off, like, value where it no longer is worth the economy it generates. So I'm watching that, and I'm like, oh, look at that. There's a lot of different manufacturers, but the specific one that I stopped on was Volkswagen. They're still planning, in the planning stages, they're still planning on giving these guys money to further this problem with travel, personal travel. I'm also watching where now they're promoting distracted drivers in the cars. I'm like, it really doesn't feel genuine anymore. I really feel like it's a fight between 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional with 9th, 10th, and 11th dimensional money. And like, I really don't think that they care about me and my situation anymore. I feel like they're just wasting money, and they don't really care. I feel like, whose oversight, like, how do you take that family to task? I know they don't want to be taken to task, but, like, at some point, we gotta say, like, enough's enough. Like, I know you don't want to piss off your neighbor, like, love thy neighbor, but, like, New York's a mess. So, here we are. And then it goes jackass, or donkey. And then it goes a couple more stories, and then almost towards the end, they do an even more in-depth second look at the Rogers County sheriffs and like a different sequence of that video, which I thought was interesting. So here we are, and this is the whatchamacallit.
No more worries, can I have an electric car? You can, and it will be the most advanced, quietest, most comfortable vehicle ever.
Independent car makers are here too.
And now this is international. So again, at corpses and buried bodies and, oh Oh my gosh, he's 6 feet under? Right, yeah, okay. Well, no, I'm still G under. And I'm in a fallout shelter by a telephone company. Again, at Monopoly, which is spelled poly at the end of it, with mono being slowed down, it gets in like disease control, which had an Epstein-Barr connection at one point. I don't know, with ESCOs being the way that they are, and energy sanctions and whatnot. I have no idea how New York's performing in actuality, but it is really hard to live here in this genealogy and whatever, and without a 6 foot over to call my own. So here we are.
California-based Indie EV showed us what's basically a home office and gaming system on 4 wheels.
Everyone's gonna have crazy good range, everyone's gonna have crazy torque, but if the car's not fun to be in, that's a disadvantage to drivers and passengers.
That's their new sales pitch, huh? Because I'm pretty sure that sounds progressive. Because at the conservatorship, I'm pretty sure Dad said at some point, like, no distracted drivers. If you got to go behind the wheel, the less bells and whistles, the better. Like, I mean, at one point, FM radio or AM radio wasn't even available on the dashboard. And now look where you've all taken us. Breaking all the
Finally,
rules.
Volkswagen's going for nostalgia, updating the iconic microbus with the all-electric ID Buzz coming to the U.S. next year.
We're spending more than
And it reminds me of a saying, like, if Dad's driving the car and we all are not really his children, but we're fostered in some way by him, and he's really angry, and he's perhaps got a little bit of road rage, which nobody faults him because we're a bunch of children that can't keep quiet in his no free speech. So, especially when it makes him look bad. So he's driving and he wants to turn the car around because he realized that the road trip's a bad idea. How does that work? Metaphorically, of course.
dollars on electrification by 2025.
Well, speaking of Volkswagen, this is a little more my style. It's a 2023 Golf R. It's got a stick shift. You can see cars like this and many others starting tomorrow here at the Javits Center. The New York International Auto Show runs until April 24th. Reporting here at the Javits Center, I'm Derek Waller, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Just very cool. Meanwhile, you can watch our...
Oh my gosh, look at what the children did in They're Not Allowed to Have Free Speech. They created something called In the Fast Lane with this New York International Auto Show. Well, gee, kids, that makes a lot of sense in my life frame over the last 4 decades of how did we get driven like to shit? Oh, how did everything fall apart? Well, it was in the fast lane, and some people know about it, but I don't know who's responsible for it, because we're not supposed to make fun of Dad, ever, and he's still in charge and driving something. So, creative way to say that we're all to blame and things need to change, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one.
Special In the Fast Lane that's all about the auto show. It airs this Saturday night at 7 right here on Channel 7.
New at noon, a special exhibit honoring the courageous efforts of members of the FDNY will open tomorrow at the New York City Fire Museum. The exhibit is called Unmasking Our Heroes. It celebrates the paramedics, EMTs, and officers of the fire.
Oh, did they say EMT? I don't know TRD on that one.
Fire department who risked their lives to save New Yorkers during the pandemic. And it also highlights the public's outpouring of support for first responders during this time. Unmasking Our Heroes includes moving images, video, and artifacts showing the extraordinary efforts for the FDNY. People will also be able to leave thank you messages.
They put out fires. In real world terms, They put out fires. They rescue. I hear they have a thing in the fire department. At least they did when I was little. One of those things I was just born knowing. There's a cat in a tree. And if you have a cat in a tree, you ask a fireman for a ladder to get the cat out of the tree and to rescue it. In metaphorically, I get it. In actuality and in motion, I have no idea how to use it between tusks and tasks.
So well deserved.
It sure is. Coming up, shooting hoops with hooves? Yes. Look at that.
She goes, look at that.
Get it now? We'll take you to a basketball game where the teammates are not very cooperative on the court.
Oh, I get it now. And taking a live look outside, let's...
Is that how? I mean, I'm just between the two leagues. And I know nobody wants to say whose fault it is. Yeah, I've been at Cosmic Nursery before in a hole in time and space, and however that works in unbelievable, right? UFOs, do they exist? Do they not? Can you get abducted by aliens? It depends what foreign body's looking for you. So it is really interesting sometimes between the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional version of a story and then the ninth, 10th, and 11th. Well, there's some fast lane business going on, and Dad needs to turn the car around because he can't get all the children quiet for a moment so he could think.
Let's call it the calm before the storm. Meteorologist Jeff Smith with an update and an accurate forecast.
I promised myself I'd make the most of these years.
I promised my wife we'd have a plan for the future.
Here's a commercial. It's called Got Junk. And it just disappears like magic.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK or visit 1-800-GOTJUNK.com. We'll be there before you hang up the phone.
Hi, I'm
Oh, more drug pusher commercials. Again, that goes back to the MS-13 gang I saw the other day with the U.S. attorney and then the regular attorney that they offer some kind of law school, which I have no idea how that even works or how you get into that. But I can't tell the difference between the MS-13 and the level drug pusher they got going on here again in this area. It's confusing.
A tale of two regions.
the North Pole.
My name is Pete Panaritis, and my father started a business.
My grandfather, George Panaritis, actually came over from Greece back in 1914 and learned the trade of ice cream and candy, and then eventually found his way here to Northport and opened up the shop back in 1929. We're mainly known for our Easter candy. I mean, this has been a staple and a tradition in Northport to have one of our chocolate rabbits. So we're very known for that around Easter time. Always for our homemade ice cream that we make here on the premises, and Greek burgers and fries.
We use quality chocolate. My father left me with one word of advice: don't sacrifice quality, and I always followed that concept. And he was the godfather, let's say, of the candy making business here. And that's the thing I always liked about him. Tough to work with, but he had a heart of gold. Presently, today, I make ice cream. I do most of the confectionery work with luck.
Did he say confectionery work? Oh, that's an industry word, isn't it? I heard that on one of the other broadcasts.
A lot of help from my
My phone is actually like sparking. It almost feels like electric connections through my fingers for some reason. It's really weird. It's like that pins and needles feeling.
Selected for preservation this year. This is a tremendous honor. The list includes several artists from New York City, including Staten Island's own Wu-Tang Clan.
Cash rules everything around me. Green, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, yo.
The National Recording Registry says the Wu-Tang Clan's 1993 album Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers helped shape the sound of
The Wu-Tang, and is that word clan for Klansman? Just want to make sure, because 36, again, it's a national recording registry of words, of spoken words, that then set some platform for whatever the kids in the fast lane do.
hardcore rap.
Well, finally, sheriff's deputies in Oklahoma learned how to deal with a partner that's as stubborn as a mule. You'll see members of the Rogers County Sheriff's Office learn directly from the mules themselves.
Now, this is the second version of this story. Oh my gosh, this is so unusual.
When they participated in what they call a donkey basketball fundraiser on April 7th. The deputies had to try to stay on their steeds while trying to score baskets during the game. The problem, the donkeys, they were not on board with this idea, so the officers ended up pulling their donkeys up and down the court. The good news, all that effort went to a fundraiser that benefited the Rogers County Adult Care Center. That's going to do it for this edition of Eyewitness News. I'm David Navarro.
I'm Shirley Nalicut. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
On the back staircase.
I could only imagine how difficult it must be on the court to have to play with donkeys and steeds that don't want to perform the way that the two levels need. But here we are. And I'm on foot, and it's like the slowest pace urban development. I mean, the word that comes to mind is pitiful, and it actually is. It's full of pitfalls that's befallen me to my behest and unbeknownst to me by the kids in the fast lane doing whatever it is that they do or whatever it is that they've been offered. I still just want over 6 foot to call my own and hold on his arm. And that's it. I don't know how to get there by myself. It does require some intervention, some help in order to send the right person. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxies, Broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.